What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on First Take, they're going to talk about how Kyle Lowry was pushed by one of the fans. So let's see what they have to say about that.
Like you said, you can't put your hands on the fan. That's not the right thing to do. We got it. And nobody will condone that. But the flip side to it is that Kyle Lowry dives into the stands, all right, trying to go after the loose ball. That man was not touched by Kyle Lowry. So you didn't push Kyle Lowry because Kyle Lowry did anything to you. You pushed Kyle Lowry because you didn't like Kyle Lowry because Kyle Lowry is on a visiting team, okay? And the point is, you would never do that if you didn't feel you had the security blanket of knowing he couldn't retaliate. So what the definition of that is a straight punk. You understand? Because what happens is that it's like if you're going to do something because you know that you don't have to worry about retaliation, then you ain't really doing something, but taking advantage of a situation. And that is why Kyle Lowry was right to go on national TV and to highlight what transpired and to say that he hopes that fan is never allowed in an arena again. That was not verbiage. He put his hands on Kyle Lowry, shoved him, and then spewed some stuff at him. You can see it right there on video. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah, so Stephen A. Smith is correct about that. Hope that fan is barred from going to NBA games for life because you can't have that. I mean, you can't be go. So Kyle Lowry, he's at work. Now, what if Kyle were to go to this guy's job and all of a sudden push him or cuss him out? You wouldn't do it. And he definitely wouldn't do that to Kyle Lowry out there in the streets. So this is the second time that I've heard this year of a big case about the fans interacting with the players in a negative way. So I think, what was it, 2 or 3 months ago, Russell Westbrook got into it with a couple of fans that wanted to cuss him out, call him a couple of choice words, and were on their way to being violent. So I don't know. If the fans keep it up, you know, the rules are going to have to be changed where most likely there's not going to be courtside seats anymore. You're not going to have player interaction. You won't be able to get as close to the players because you can't take a chance of something happening. So if fans keep it up, eventually those courtside seats are going to be pushed back 15 to 20 feet to where you're not going to have courtside seats anymore. You're not going to be able as close as you want to because certain people can't handle being close. Some people can't handle keeping their hands to themselves. So I don't know. Let's keep going.
Before I address the incident, I want to say one thing about Kyle Lowry. I've been on Steph for not playing at his level or above his level when his team has needed him most late in finals games, and he had a game last night for the ages. Good for him. That's A+ stuff out of Steph. Kyle Lowry, too, has been criticized for not always playing. Forget about elevating. Just be yourself in the playoffs when your team needs you most. In a pivotal, critical game because the Warriors were hurt. Really, the Raptors needed to win that game, and Kawhi needed help. That wasn't peak Kawhi. Kyle Lowry played big last night. I just want to say that. He had a magnificent game. Good for him because that's...
And Max, as far as you give him praise to Kyle Lowry, he did have a good game. He had 23 points, but don't act like you put up 50 points and no one else did anything. So everybody that started or got significant playing time got into the double digits. So it wasn't just because of Kyle, like he put up 50 points. It was just him, the front runner, and that's why they won. Because there's been a couple of times, a lot of times when Kyle Lowry has had some terrible games where he'd only put up 7 points or 10 points. And there's one game when you put up a goose egg. He didn't score at all. So if you want to talk about anything, you should be giving more on Kyle Lowry than on Steph Curry. And to give him praise because he put up 23 points in a victory where everybody else that started or got significant playing time got into the double digits, he doesn't need any praise. That's a team effort right there. So let's keep going.
I always say, these scripts aren't written ahead of time. These players write their own scripts, and he flipped it last night, Kyle Lowry. Now in terms of the incident, the NBA has a situation that's different than other sports. The fans and the players interact more with those courtside seats especially. That takes an enormous amount of cooperation. Now, I totally agree with you, Stephen, that look, you can't put your hands on someone else, right? But once you do, now the decision is what's going to happen. That's out of your hands. That's out on the other dude now. You put your hands on someone, don't cry about the consequences for that because they have a right to put their hands on you at that point. Kyle Lowry showed a lot of restraint. What I'm interested in is what the fan was saying specifically. Because I think we all know the type of buttons you can push with players that make them say, that dude should not come back based on what he said. I'm interested to know what specifically that fan said courtside at a Warriors game to Kyle Lowry that had him hot like that.
It don't matter.
Exactly. It doesn't really matter what he said. He can say whatever he wants under the sun. But as soon as you go hands on, as soon as you touch somebody, all bets are off. All bets are off, and you've jumped it up a level. There's levels to it. Saying certain things and getting verbal is one thing, but then when you start getting physical and you go hands on, that's a whole nother level. And the level before that's forgotten about. Now I'm only worried about why you put your hands on me and what's the next step going to be. So what he said, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't really matter at all. You can guess what type of things he would say to him. So it doesn't matter. The fact is, you put hands on somebody, that's next level, and it can get ugly. So let's keep going.
Don't matter, Max.
It don't matter.
I'd like to know. I'd like to know too. Don't get me wrong, Steven. I come to you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong. Of course, I'd like to know. I can imagine what the man said. You understand?
I can't actually.
Yeah, I can.
In that setting, you think he would say something?
You never know. But what I'm saying to you is this, because it's courtside seats. You see what I'm saying? And you got people that are in privileged positions that feel they can get away with a lot of things. But I will tell you this: shove aside all of that. I don't need to even know what he said. I'd like to know, but I don't need to know what he said. I saw this man shove Kyle Lowry. He had nothing to do with that. He put his hands on Kyle Lowry and then spewed something at him.
Hold on. I agree.
That's all I see. That's all I need to see.
More than half of what I said was dedicated to saying you cannot put your hands.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I don't need to
What
see
I'm
anything
talking
else.
about is what Kyle Lowry said after the game, what he told Scott Van Pelt after the game. He also focused on what the dude was saying. He said he was saying things, that vulgar stuff. He repeated them at me, and he should never be allowed back in. So I'm wondering what that is.
Well, whatever was said after a push, it ain't nothing. It ain't a compliment.
Yeah.
You know it's something disrespectful. You know it's something out of line. And once he pushed him, anything that he says is off limits. Like, I'm defensive after that. Like, after you push me for no reason, anything you say, half the stuff you're saying, I don't even hear it. I'm just being defensive from the push. And so I understand what Kyle, and it was good, it was Kyle. Lucky it wasn't the Steven Jackson or Ron Artest, because it could have been different, because it's all about respect. It's not really about basketball at that point. We both men. You have no reason to put your hands on me. Now, if it was a different situation where Kyle was on the street and he just pushed this guy, Kyle be all over the news for assault.
Yeah.
The other thing.
Exactly. I like Steven Jackson. I wish he was on there a lot more because he's definitely a G. But exactly, it doesn't really matter what that guy said. Once you get physical, once you go hands on, it's a done deal. It is a done deal. And like they said, that guy wouldn't do that if they're out there on the street. That guy's he knows he's protected. He knows nothing's going to happen to him. And I'm glad. I hope he gets banned from going to all those basketball games for the rest of the playoffs. Actually, just banned from going to NBA games, period. And I hear he's a partial owner of the Golden State Warriors. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to him and if he'll be able to come back to games in the future. So let's keep going.
Point out is this. The NBA, understand, Kyle Lowry, nobody here is saying Kyle Lowry should have put his hands on the man, because obviously that would have been a different incident. But you know what Kyle Lowry could have done? He could have made a spectacle of it. He could have stopped the game. He could have gotten that man's face and demanded that guy be removed. We ain't doing nothing right now. We're going to delay this game. Remember, they delayed the game for calls to be reviews for review for crime. Well, guess what? Delay the game to look at what this man just did to me. We ain't going nowhere until this man is removed right now.
In fact, I thought Kyle Lowry
could have done that.
I thought Kyle Lowry handled it perfectly and in a way that demonstrates to players how you can behave in a way that keeps you above boards and puts the spotlight on the fan in the right way.
But
he waited till after.
That you are right about that, Max. It is a good thing that Kyle Lowry didn't react in a certain way, so he got ejected or something happened to him. But at the same time, he exhibited restraint and he restrained himself. He controlled himself. So on the other hand, the league definitely needs to do something to that guy and make sure that he's banned from going to NBA games. You can't just have it one-sided where this guy, Kyle Lowry, it's okay for somebody to push him. It's okay to push him and call him names and cuss him out and all that, and nothing's going to happen to him. So, like I said, that guy, the fans should be able to be kicked out, and he should not be able to have any access to any more NBA games. You got to get in trouble for that. Because if not, what's the incentive for Kyle to not do anything back to him? You can't just push me and that's it. You can't just sit there and cuss me out and then nothing happens to you. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. And like I said before, and what Steven Jackson said, that fan's lucky he didn't do that to another player that would have no problems giving back what he gave to him. No problems. So I hope that fan gets suspended. He can no longer go to any more games. And like I said, I think he's a partial owner of the Golden State Warriors. So that's going to be very interesting to see what happens. So let's keep going.
Hey, this is the finals.
Yup.
Regular season, he wouldn't act like that.
Okay, but whatever. But you notice Kyle Lowry's not suspended for a game.
But I'm saying
Kyle Lowry didn't create an incident.
It would have been more of an incident with Kyle if it was regular season. This is the finals. This is a lot at stake.
By the way,
that same push would happen regular season.
Are you hearing him, man?
Are you hearing him?
That's fine. But that's nevertheless, Kyle Lowry's playing. Kyle Lowry's not suspended.
Right.
Kyle Lowry didn't even insult the fans. He started by saying we have great fans and just focused on that.
Yeah, but you're thinking about the post-game interview. We're talking about what happened at the moment. And what I'm saying to you is that in the moment, him bringing attention to that fan is the right thing to do. He could have been even more demonstrative in it. And what Steven is saying is that if it was the regular season, Kyle might have been willing to take a suspension.
Maybe
just to
Yeah. He showed great restraint in the moment. Stephen, before we let you go, why we have you here, I got to ask you this. So now, with how things have played out, how do you think this series finishes up?
How we expected to finish up before we
What's that?
started.
What's
the
that?
Warriors winning, of course.
In how many games?
6.
I'm glad how Steven, the way he talked there, it's like the way we thought it was going to end up before. Ain't nothing changed just because Kyle Lowry got in a situation with one of the fans. Ain't nothing changed. I like how Steven talked to Molly.
6.
So are you assuming Clay or KD's coming
They were
back?
supposed to win a game last night. I'm assuming KD and Clay come back and they win this series, but they were supposed to win that game last night.